Today, the EPA will start testing St. Charles City water for contamination.
The testing will be done around the Elm Point Wellfield, which supplies most of that area's drinking water. And our Sydney Stallworth is live at St. Charles City Hall with more this morning.
That's right, Michelle. Rennie, there are 7 wells at the Elm Point Wellfield, and residents had a lot of questions after 3 of those wells were shut down in recent months. In all, 5 of the 7 wells have been shut down over the past several years. Now, the city held a public meeting to address some of the concerns that residents have. Now, at this meeting, residents got the chance to ask some questions. EPA reps assured the crowd that city tap water meets all state and federal requirements and that there's no issue with using it. Now, some residents wondered why the wells were shut down then. A St. Charles City rep explained that the city periodically collects its own samples, and after crews detected contaminants, the wells were shut down because there was a risk of those contaminants, and that risk would become more concentrated and possibly dangerous if the wells continued to pump. Now, the city said it provided that data to the Missouri Department of Natural Resources and the EPA, and the city has blamed the water contamination on an Ameren site and 2 other companies that have gone out of business. Now, Ameren has released a statement saying, in part, quote, Ameren Missouri is committed to the safety of the St. Charles community and remains strongly supportive of additional EPA-directed testing in the Elm Point Wellfield, and that the source of the contamination is still unknown. Now, today, the EPA will be collecting samples at various sites, 9 trailers, 2 businesses, and even 3 lakes to find the root of any contamination. We had the chance to speak with St. Charles Mayor and a representative from Ameren. We're going to hear from both of them in the next half hour. But for now, reporting live in St. Charles, I'm Sydney Stallworth, 5 on your side.
This morning, there is good news on the home front for Blues Nation. The Note got it done on the home ice last night against Ottawa. Jordan Bennington was solid in the net. He stopped 32 of the 33 shots that the Senators fired his way. The Blues took a 2-goal lead in the first period when Noel Achari seized the opportunity of a wide open net right there. It was a hard-fought win for the Note. They beat Ottawa 2-1.
I think we kind of let our foot off the gas a bit and gave them a little energy. You know, we bent, but we didn't break, so that was good for us. And you know, the 2 points were important.
And Monday's win made some history. This is a tweet that the Blues sent out overnight. They are now the 8th team in the 106 years of the NHL to win 2,000 games. This morning, the question in the NFL is, has Tom Brady played his last game? You see, the Cowboys had their way with Brady and the Bucs last night in their wild card matchup. Dak Prescott threw 4 touchdowns. This one put Dallas up by 25 points. Dallas won 31-14, eliminating Tom and Tampa from the playoffs. Dallas will now play San Francisco in the next round.
His first dunk tonight.
The NBA is buzzing about Chaminade grad Jason Tatum. He could not be stopped on Monday. Tatum scored from everywhere, outside, inside. He scored 51 points in 48 minutes in Boston's win over the Hornets, the 7th 50-point game of his basketball career. ILLINI. This morning, Coach Underwood is pointing the Fighting Illini in the right direction. Matt Meyer led the way on Monday against Minnesota. He posted a double-double with 19 points and 10 rebounds. Illinois won 78-60, the 4th win in a row for the Fighting Illini.
Well, right now, Deerbergs is looking to hire more than 100 employees for its new Crestwood store in South County. And they are hosting a hiring fair to bring you in. It is next Thursday from 2 to 6 p.m. at the South Roads Deerberg store on Tesson Ferry. Full-time and part-time roles are available, including cashiers, meat and deli associates, and courtesy clerks. You do have to be 16 years or older to apply. The Crestwood location is set to open later this spring. Now, Boeing is launching an internship program through the University of Missouri St. Louis. That's according to our partners at the St. Louis Business Journal. Students in UMSL's engineering program can join, and students will be paid $19.50 hourly to start, and then that will increase to $22. Students are expected to work at Boeing for 20 hours a week. The program is scheduled to start next month.
Just about 5:51, and now that more people are back to work today, since it's not a holiday, unfortunately, we have our first incident of the morning here, and you can see the flashing lights in the distance. This camera specifically is 55 at Arsenal. The incident is right around Broadway, and it is a scanner report of a overturned vehicle. And I want to show you how that's impacting traffic. Area-wide, you are relatively quiet, but I want to zoom into this specific location because it is creating a backup that's pretty significant. It's gotten up to about a mile so far, and that's where it's really slowing down right around the bend here. As we continue to look and zoom out just a little further, it's about a mile backup and growing, and that's something that's popped up over the last few minutes. So we'll keep an eye on this, and when it lets you know when it clears and what pops up the rest of the morning area-wide.
All right, thanks for that update, Gary. This morning, we want to turn your attention to what happened in Iowa yesterday. Starting off with our storm reports. Now, they had some hail reported there, but they also had several tornadoes reported in parts of Iowa yesterday. This makes it the earliest a tornado has ever been reported in the calendar year ever in Iowa. And that happened yesterday. And it also is the second time ever that they've had tornadoes during the month of January. So very unusual weather happening, and of course we've had very unusual weather not only in Iowa but across the country. You're talking, of course, the warmest months in most recent months, and then also the deluge of rain that they've been having out west. So very strong storm systems have been making their way through the country. That one's moving away from us. High pressure is in control now for us, and then tomorrow we'll have another round of rain for that system moving off the Rockies for tomorrow. So right now we're clear, 42 degrees to start the day. It feels like 38. Winds are out of the west at 6, and those winds won't be as breezy today. We could still have winds anywhere from 10 to 15 miles per hour, but no gusts like we had yesterday that reached 35 miles per hour. So we're a little bit cooler this morning as those winds settle down. It's 32 in Chesterfield, 35 in Farmington this morning, and lots of 40s on the Illinois side from Alton back towards Mount Vernon and Flora. So sunny skies expected all day long. Just a few passing clouds this morning. Numbers will be very comfortable for this time of year. We're used to being near 40, and today we will be in the mid-50s, so above average and lots of sunshine. Now, the Futurecast shows the clouds returning tonight, and then tomorrow morning when you wake up, we'll have a few showers around. This little thin band of rain will move through, and then we'll catch a little bit of a break as we go towards late morning. Early afternoon, more rain does push back into the area. We could even have a few heavy pockets of downpours tomorrow, maybe a rumble of thunder as those numbers cool on down. The 7-day forecast shows that cooling trend into the weekend. Keeping an eye on another system for Sunday. That right now could either bring us rain or snow. The verdict's still out, and in some instances, the computer models completely miss us with that system on Sunday. So in the short term, just enjoy today. It'll be nice and sunny.
Ah, I love that. Does the winter blues have you feeling blue? You know, you're not alone. We have some tips to kick the seasonal sadness coming up after the break.
A new Alzheimer's drug seeking approval in the U.S. Coming up at 6 o'clock, the role that WashU played in the development. Keeping you safe and sound this morning, a new global study shows women who contract COVID during pregnancy are more at risk of developing health complications. Researchers found that pregnant women who had COVID-19 were nearly, get this, 4 times more likely to get admitted to an intensive care unit and more than 15 times more likely to need ventilation. They also had a higher risk of developing preeclampsia, serious blood clots, and hypertension. Positive developments in the recent children's medicine shortage. Walgreens says it is no longer limiting online sales of children's fever medicine. Some pharmacies made restrictions recently after RSV and flu cases caused demand to surge. Walgreens didn't limit in-person sales of pediatric fever medication though either.
Now, we know it's Tuesdays today, but we're thinking about the Blue Mondays that January tends to bring. A day thought by some to be depressing as it's cold and dark outside, all that taking place earlier in the day. In today's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither has more on how you can break those winter blues.
The winter holidays are behind us, but the weather outside can still be frightful, and your next day off is too long off. If this all sounds gloomy, you may have the blues.
The body just kind of shuts down and wants to hibernate.
In the winter months, millions of Americans can suffer varying degrees of seasonal affective disorder. Cleveland Clinic psychologist Kia Ray Pruitt says the exact cause is unclear. One theory is that it may be due to reduced activity of serotonin in the brain, which helps regulate mood. Some believe sunlight helps maintain those levels, which is why winter blues can happen when it gets darker earlier.
Sometimes you have to kind of come up with your own way to feel energized.
Pruitt says start by engaging in self-care. Healthy eating and physical activity aren't just good for the body, but your mind too. Stay connected to others, whether it's friends or family. Having a support system is key, and change your environment so it's more soothing.
Have things around you that appeal to one or more of your 5 senses.
If you've tried to break out of the blues and still feel down, other treatment options may be right for you.
You might be feeling a sense of worthlessness or hopelessness. Maybe you're losing interest in activities. If that's going on for at least 2 weeks, it may actually be time to reach out and talk to a therapist.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
You got to keep in mind there are resources available for everyone. And even if it's not you, but someone you love or a friend that's going through something like that, refer them as well.
Yeah, and you lived in the Northwest, and I lived in the Pacific Northwest, you know, where it was gray and winter all the time. You know, sometimes just getting out for a walk can really help, or buying those lights. I mean, whatever you can do to, I don't know, to get help is important.
Resources are out there.
Yeah.
Stay with us now. Today in St. Louis at 6 a.m. starts right now. Breaking overnight. A violent night across St. Louis City. 3 homicides in less than 2 hours. We have a deeper dive this morning to see how crime this year compares to last year.
Central EPA students and staff returned to school today for the first time since a deadly school shooting here back in October. I'll tell you what special measures are in place to make students and staff feel safe.
Several people are without homes in St. Charles this morning. What a neighbor says sparked this fire at an apartment building.
EPA testing starts today as water safety concerns rise in St. Charles. The city is pointing the blame at Ameren. This morning, updates from the recent citywide meeting, words from the mayor, and Ameren's response.
Rain develops tomorrow and temperatures cool down to end the week. We'll track how much rain is on the way, plus look at a weekend storm.
We're living by the skin of our teeth.
A plea for help. How flood victims in St. Charles County are trying to find solutions 6 months after devastating flooding in our region.
If you're a St. Louis Symphony fan, this will be music to your ears. The changes you'll see inside Powell Hall after a massive renovation.
This is Today in St. Louis, focused on you.
A live look outside right now into Forest Park at the planetarium, which appears to be breathing the way it changes, doesn't it? That's kind of cool looking. A lot of colors over there, and today's going to be a terrific Tuesday. You can read the Chiron right there on your screen. Thank you so much for joining us for Today in St. Louis at 6 a.m. I'm Rennie Knott.
And I'm Michelle Lee. We want to just say thanks for joining us, including those of you watching us on 5+. And did you notice you said Chiron?
Yeah, I noticed. I'm pulling out the news lingo.
I go back in time.
Old school language there. We call them lower thirds today.
The words on the screen. The words on the screen.
Did you notice that the planetarium was not shaking this?
I know. So have the winds died that down?
So that camera's way up
Okay.
high, and so when you zoom in, it gets a little sensitive. So if you get even just a little breeze, it looks like it's really windy. So that's the reason why sometimes it looks breezy, sometimes not.
Look at all these explanations.
You zoom out a
You're
little
learning
bit.
so much.
Now we know.
We're having an
Yeah.
earthquake when I
Lower
saw it. I was like,
thirds,
oh, Lord.
Tyrons. What is this? Yeah. The educational hour of Tissel. Okay, so this morning we are in the low 40s in St. Louis. We do have some 30s on the map, so it is colder in some spots, like in Chesterfield down to 32 degrees. Alton, Litchfield at 39, even Farmington 35 degrees. So high temperatures today climb into the mid to upper 50s, maybe even near 60 in some spots like in Farmington, Perryville, and Ironton. A decent day, to say the least, and not as breezy. Winds out of the west at 5 to 15 miles per hour. All right, let's head over to Gary. He's here to school you on traffic this morning. What's happening on the roads?
Well, we've got some updates on what's going on, and you would expect more people to be on the roads because yesterday was a holiday and it was raining. We'd had some issues early, but our issue early this morning is on the 55 in Arsenal, Cam. We've showed it the last few minutes. The specific incident is on North 55 at Broadway, and you can see the flashing lights in the distance. Everywhere else is quiet, but I want to update you on what's going on because we've had the report of a rollover crash, and you obviously saw the emergency vehicles on scene. What I want to bring you some good news is even as I show you this incident here, this is not as bad as it was in terms of traffic data. It's still about a mile back up, or at least a slowdown, but you saw the cars moving through. Right now it looks like they're getting things in order, and hopefully that'll be that way by more people on the roads. It's expected to be clear by 6:30. We'll keep you posted if that is still on track.
We begin with breaking news this morning. A violent night in St. Louis with 3 homicides taking place in less than 2 hours. You can see on this map here, 2 shootings happened in South City and 1 on the north side. The most recent homicide happened just after 10 o'clock last night on Gravois and Russell. Police say a 35-year-old man was shot in the torso. He later died at the hospital. An hour before that, police were called to a shooting on Bell Place in the city's Vandervender neighborhood of North St. Louis. They say a 30-year-old woman was shot several times. And just after 8:30 last night, police say a woman was shot on California Avenue in South St. Louis. She ended up at a gas station on Broadway near Interstate 55, a block away. Now, this makes at least 7 homicides in St. Louis to start the year 2023. This time last year, the city also had 7 homicides. Right now, we have no word from police on if these shootings are at all connected.
New overnight, a St. Charles County apartment fire forces several people from their homes. This fire started just after 1 o'clock this morning on Park West Drive in St. Peters. A neighbor told our 5 on Your Side crew that a ceiling fan in the bathroom started smoking right before it caught fire. The flames were contained to 1 unit, but 2 other apartments had some smoke damage. No one, though, was hurt. 6:04 is the time now, and within an hour, Central VPA high school students and staff will return to in-school and in-person classes. It is the first time that they will be in the hallways since a gunman opened fire inside the building in late October. Now, Alex Feast is joining us live outside Central VPA in South St. Louis with how officials are getting ready for this morning. Good morning, Alex.
Yeah, Michelle, good morning. I'll give you a live look at the sign which will be greeting students and staff when they return today. It reads, "Welcome back, CVPA Strong." District officials have worked very hard to help students and staff arrive at a place emotionally where they are ready to return. Counselors will be on hand to support them today with an emphasis on making the day as normal as possible. First bell rings at 7 o'clock this morning. Students will be arriving a half hour or so prior to that. Now, today's in-person return was postponed from January 9th due to construction delays, with crews still fixing damage from the October deadly school shooting. A 19-year-old former student opened fire inside Central VPA, killing 61-year-old teacher Jean Kushka and 15-year-old student Alexandria Bell. 7 other students were also wounded. St. Louis police shot and killed that gunman. Virtual options will be available for students who feel they need more time before coming back to school. Central VPA students returned remotely online on November 14th. Students at Collegiate School of Medicine and Bioscience, which shares a building with Central VPA, started in-person learning in late November with the option of remaining virtual for the rest of the school year. Now, coming up later this morning, I'll tell you about a school safety software program which notifies school district administrators about the content of 911 calls coming from or near their property. Live this morning in South St. Louis, Alex Fees, 5 on Your Side.
Thank you, Alex. Now, as students return this morning, they'll see some artistic changes. Right now, 8 murals have been painted inside the Central VPA High School by St. Louis artist Brock Seals. Each one displays different messages.
When I heard that this happened, it really hit hard. You know, it hit home because, you know, you see these things in other cities and other states and you react to them. But when I heard it was like in my backyard, you know, I'm like, man, these are my people. I think it'll bring happiness. I think it'll lighten the mood. It'll inspire them and motivate them to, you know, be happy and feel safe at school.
The school principal hopes these murals inspire the kids. The goal is to have students, artists take over and paint over their lockers.
Well, today, water testing begins in St. Charles. Concerns about possible water contamination as city officials and residents looking for answers this morning. Our Sydney Stallworth is live at the St. Charles City Hall with more on what's happening today. Sydney?
Well, Michelle, that's right. Today, the EPA will start testing St. Charles water for any contamination, and their concerns are rooted at the Elm Point Wellfield. 3 of the wells at the wellfield were closed in 2022 after chemicals were found in the groundwater, and that makes 5 of the 7 wells at that field closed since 2005. Now, later today, the EPA will be testing in 9 trailers, 2 businesses, and 3 lakes to find the root of any contamination. Last Thursday, a public meeting was held to discuss the water in St. Charles. One resident asked about possible health risks to the public from the water. An EPA rep assured the crowd that city tap water meets all state and federal requirements, and there's no issue in drinking, bathing in, or using the water from the tap. Now, the city has blamed the water contamination on an Ameren site and 2 other companies that have since gone out of business. Last month, we met with the mayor of St. Charles and a representative from Ameren.
We checked every business in the Wellhead District, and not one of those businesses disseminates any of the chlorine, the vinyl chloride, or the other contaminants that are being found in the water. Only Ameren.
We have remediated all that contamination outside of our substation to the extent that we know.
Ameren has released a statement saying in part, quote, Ameren, Missouri is committed to the safety of the St. Charles community and remains strongly supportive of additional EPA-directed testing in the Elm Point Wellfield, and that the source of the contamination is still unknown. Now, the Elm Point Wellfield is the main source of drinking water here in St. Charles. We're going to have more details from last week's public meeting in the next half hour. Reporting in St. Charles, I'm Sydney Stallworth, 5 on your side.